Now stop. I feel it in the air right now. It's all around, I see it everywhere. It's the power. Yeah, yeah, God's power. It's the power to move any star. It's the power to heal your broken heart. It's the power. Yeah, God's power. So don't hold back, no, don't hold still. God is here and He is real. Take 4 steps to the left, to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it around and move to the right. 1, 2, 3. Now take tiny little jumps forward to the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 jumps back, but you better look back. Let's do it all again right now. Take 4 steps to the left, to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it around and move to the right. 1, 2, 3. Now take tiny little jumps forward to the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 jumps back, but you better look back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now freeze. And everybody clap your hands. Now stop.
Hi everybody. Now we can all feel worn out sometimes, can't we? Everything can feel like a real struggle. You know, it's like that even for top athletes sometimes. No matter how hard you try, you seem to get nowhere. Well, today we're going to hear how, in times of struggle, Jesus can help us out. First though, we asked this lot, our athletes, if they'd ever been somewhere where they felt everything was against them and how being a follower of Jesus made a real difference.
Rowing and sport, we're away all the time, you know, we travel around the world, we see some amazing places, but at the same time we have to leave family and friends at home. It's probably about a third of the year that we're away. That's not easy to do. God's provided me with an amazing family who encourage me, they don't mind that I go away all the time. I mean, that makes life so much easier, and it's just brilliant to have.
Well, there was always, I think, tough things in training. You know, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and then having to, you know, go to the pool and swim for maybe 2.5 hours and then go to the gym and then again in the evening go for running and then more swimming and weights, and it was just a lot. Every day there was always a struggle and a choice to make to keep working hard, and I just had to keep praying that God would give me the strength.
As an athlete, you know, it's sometimes, you know, it's really difficult to just wake up and get going. And sometimes you hit, you know, very bad moments and you feel low. And it's in the lowest moments of my life, that's when Jesus is so real. Sometimes I set my goals and I feel like I cannot achieve this goal. It's not for me, it's too much for me, you know. And that is when Jesus has reminded me that through Him, everything is possible.
The biggest support I had of all was being able to go to Jesus and bring those problems to Him in prayer, and know that He was always there and He would always hear me, and I would gain a lot of strength from that through the times when I was struggling most.
There's always times in anything where you'll have a day where you're struggling, that it's not going to plan, or that you're upset, or things aren't working out for you. And firstly and foremost, I will always lift that up to God. I really trust that God has my life in His hands, and that He knows what He's doing and He knows where He wants me to go. And even if sometimes I don't understand why things are not going right, I know that God knows, and I can lift my cares and worries to Him and trust that that will be okay, and that will really give me a sense of peace.
Well, when I went to swim at the Beijing Olympics, I was maybe a favourite to get a medal. I'd won a medal at the World Championships the year before that. The Olympics is quite a different story because it's a really a really high up level of competition, so you have to be at your very, very best. And at my favourite event, I didn't do very well at all, and I remember touching the wall and then looking at my time on the big scoreboard and thinking, oh wow, what happened there? And I knew it wasn't going to be fast enough to get me to progress further in the competition. And I just sort of took a deep breath and thought, well, I knew that God was still with me and He still loved me, and that I tried my best, and I honestly had. I couldn't have done any more. I remember just crying and crying and crying, and people were trying to comfort me and give me hugs. But all the thoughts that were going through my head, but I really felt this. The Bible talks about the still small voice of God, and I really felt like He just spoke and He said, "But I am proud of you." And that really meant a lot to me, because I felt like I'd let everybody down and I'd been such a disaster, and the last 12 years of my life had been a waste. But God was still saying, "No, I still love you, you're still my child." And I'd done my best, and it wasn't worthless what I'd done in the last 12 years, but I'd learned so much about just applying myself and training and all the hard work I'd done. And especially with Jesus, there's never a disaster that's so deep that you can't lift you up out of it. It's very important to me.
So, if you want to do really well, you've got to be prepared for times when things get really hard. And it's great that our guys look to God for help. And talking of looking, let's bring our screen back in again. There it is. And hopefully we've got John somewhere there. So where are you today, John?
Hi Dan, hi everyone. I'm on a boat. It's fantastic. The wind's behind us and we're flying along. Those athletes are great, aren't they? They just keep going through thick and thin. It's a good job as well, because sometimes it's hard to get to where you want to be. Once Jesus' friends were on a boat at night. They were heading across an enormous lake. It was a very rough night and choppy. The wind was strong and the waves were crashing against the boat. They'd been travelling for hours and felt like they were getting nowhere. Even the fishermen that were in the boat, who'd done this 100 times, started to wonder if they were ever going to get to the other side. Jesus wasn't with them. They'd left him behind after an incredible day. A huge crowd had gathered and he'd healed people and taught people. They'd seen some incredible miracles. But now they were alone. And they were tired. Their arms were aching. Those that weren't fishermen were starting to get quite scared. They looked at the fishermen and thought, surely they'll know what to do. But there was nothing they could do. The wind was just too strong. Suddenly, there was someone walking across the water towards them. Actually walking on the water. Who could it possibly be? Now they were really scared. Except for Simon Peter, he knew there was only one person that could walk on water. That was his friend Jesus. So standing up, he wiped the water from his face and he called out, "Lord, if it's you, call me and I'll come to you." "Come on then," came the reply. As the disciples grabbed hold of the boat, Peter moved slowly to the side. He put one foot over and then the other. He didn't look back. He fixed his eyes on Jesus and jumped straight out of the boat. At first, his friends thought he would have sank straight in the water. But as they looked, there was Simon Peter stood on the surface. His feet were wet and the waves were crashing around him. And then he took his first step. It was like watching someone that Jesus had healed take their first step. And they encouraged him, "Come on!" And he took another step and another. Simon Peter thought this was amazing. How could this possibly be that he was stood on the surface of the water? And then he took his eyes off Jesus. And he looked down. He felt the water on his face and he saw the waves crash on his legs and he started to get scared. And as he watched, his feet started to disappear under the surface, then his legs. Within seconds, the water that had held him was swallowing him. "Lord, save me," he cried out, remembering that he wasn't alone. "Oh, you of little faith," Jesus said as he grabbed him with a strong hand, helped him back to the surface where he could stand firm. "Why did you doubt?" The disciples watched as the two friends came to the boat to climb in. It was still quite difficult because the boat was rocking around quite a lot. But as soon as Jesus got into the boat, everything went still. The wind stopped and the waves stopped crashing against the hull. It was peaceful. It's true. one of them said. You are the Son of God. You are, another said, you are God's Son. They travelled on across a calm sea with a bright moon guiding the way for them. Some of them slept, some of them talked, all of them aware of what an incredible thing they'd been a part of. And realising that just when they needed it most, when the going got tough, Jesus was there for them. And Simon Peter, well, his feet were freezing from the cold water they'd been in, but his heart was on fire. It almost didn't seem real what had happened, but everyone had seen it. And he knew that with Jesus, anything was possible. He made a promise to himself. He'd never again take his eyes off Jesus. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks, John. It's pretty clear, isn't it, that Jesus had such authority. Being on his team means that we can expect incredible things. But it's also about being ready to do something for him that seems just as brave as what Peter did when he stepped out of that boat, and trusting him when we do it. Have a great day, everyone.
Creatures of our God and King, lift up your voice with us and sing. Alleluia, alleluia. Oh, burning sun with golden beam, and silver moon with softer gleam. Oh, praise him, oh, praise him. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
to get this oddly colored cup from the bottom to the top. The first person to do that wins in under a minute.
Ready?
Yep.
Get set. Go.
Go to the top. Two.
I had one. I had one left and Jake had two left. That was a close one. I win. I won 3 out of the 4 relays, so I won the game. Yeah!
Stories of the Bible. Peter walks on water. This is Peter.
Hey-o! Whoop!
Peter was a fisherman who was called by Jesus.
Hey!
Peter saw the many miracles of Jesus.
Whoa!
And he heard all his teachings. Great crowds followed Jesus wherever he went. One day after Jesus had done a great miracle, he sent the disciples in a boat across the lake while he stayed and sent the people home.
See ya!
Hi, Jesus.
After sending them home, Jesus went up into the hills by himself to pray. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!"
Hold on there.
But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage. I am here." Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." So Jesus said, "Yes, come." So Peter went over the side of the boat.
Whoa! This is awesome!
And walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink.
Jesus, help me!
"Save me, Lord!" he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. Jesus said, "You have so little faith. Why did you doubt me?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshipped him and said, "You really are the Son of God."